Hi, my name's Aileen Calletano, and I am a synthetic chemist at Cascade Chemistry by Aceto in Eugene, Oregon. There, I work as a process R&D chemist. So what I do is I take like a recipe that's given to us from a client, and then I develop the process and optimize it. To make it more cost effective. Um, and then I also help with a scale up, and we help produce that and manufacture that for the client, um, and whatever specifications they need.
Could you describe what you do for your job currently?
Yeah. So a synthetic chemist is someone that physically makes the compound or whatever you're trying to make there. So we're the ones that are hands-on in the lab, running the experiments, trying to make all of the ingredients that the client needs.
What sorts of things were you interested in when you were younger?
So I I'll probably start by giving a little more background about myself. So, growing up here in Oregon, there weren't a lot of folks that looked like me in the science field. So, it wasn't until like junior year of high school that I had a really great chemistry teacher that um, just kind of saw the spark in me and said that I was pretty good at chemistry. And so from there, I went on to college and I decided I wanted to major in chemistry. Um, and in my senior year, I did some research with one of my mentors, and we were working with some polymers. And so that was kind of my first introduction to polymers. And that's when I decided that I wanted to look into grad school, and look for a program that dealt with polymers. And then I was connected with a grad school at University of Oregon, and that's where I got my master's in chemistry with a focus in polymer science. Um, and really, polymers just kind of attracted me because they're everywhere, and so I think it's super cool to like figure out how they're made and what all these properties are, and um, I just kind of like that. But they're everywhere.
Can you talk about the importance of representation in the work that you do?
Absolutely. I mean, it it's very common for someone that looks like me to be an only, not only because I'm a woman, but because I'm a woman of color. So walking into a room, I think this is classic, like one of my physics class that I had to take as a chemistry major. I think I was one of two women in a 30-person class. Um, and uh, yeah, it was, it's daunting, I think, walking in and just being an only and trying to figure out who you can count on and who's gonna give you a seat at the table, and um, trying to work with them. And um, it's definitely challenging, but it has taught me many skills, and how to fend for myself and how to speak up. So it is difficult, but I think very worth it, especially seeing like my younger family members, my younger cousins that are women too, um, and they have someone to look up to and someone that looks like them that's in this field. And I know that my 12-year-old cousin didn't know that that was a possibility, but saw that I became a scientist, a chemist, and now she wants to be a chemist. So that's pretty cool. So, yeah.
What kind of challenges have you encountered along the way?
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up here in Springfield, Oregon. Um, so a lot of the public schools here aren't super well funded, I'd say. We just didn't have a lot of resources, especially when I was super young in elementary school. I can remember just a lot of things that weren't upkept. We had a lot of like leaky roofs. I remember that, um, and I wasn't really ever given like a formal science class, so there wasn't really a chemistry class. So that's also a reason why it wasn't on my radar for something that I could do growing up. Um, so that was a challenge, and then going into middle school, that's when I first had my science class, um, and that was, I think, really difficult for me, just because I feel like my other peers had um, that head start that I didn't have. So they were already interested in it, or they already knew that they weren't interested in it. Um, so I felt like I had to do a lot of catch up. Um, so I think that was a difficulty. And then just like uh, growing up in a Hispanic household, like hearing a bunch of Spanish, English and Spanish were my first languages together, so that was always a barrier. Um, just being able to translate things quickly in my head. So sometimes like I'll stumble because I'm thinking about something in Spanish and it won't come out in English, and so it's like that's also a difficulty. Um, but that's been easier, growing up and taking more courses. I think it's been easier for me to um, translate things quickly.
Could you describe your average workday?
For me, I usually come in pretty early. First thing I do is I check my email, make sure that I didn't miss any client emails, or any other emails from either the project manager or anybody else on the team that I'm on. And then from there, I plan my day depending on whatever the client or someone else on the team needs from me. Um, and then I usually have an idea from the day before what experiments I'm going to run that day. And then I start setting up the glassware, making sure everything looks good, and then start running the experiments. And definitely communicate with other departments if I'm going to need their support that day. Earlier is better, uh, just because everyone's really busy, and especially in this industry, it's always go, go, go. So we got to make sure we're communicating.
What kind of skills do you need to be successful in the work that you do?
Sure. Technical skills required for this. You'll definitely need a lot of hands on laboratory experience. And just knowing how to safely work with chemicals. So using safety goggles and nitrile gloves, your lab coat, um, and then you'll end up using some instrumentation. So you'll use an NMR. I frequently use an NMR and HPLCs, and different instrumentations like that. And there's just so many instruments you need to know how to use, but it's not something that it's like, you know, you won't get hired on if you don't know how to use one or two instruments. There's definitely a lot of folks that are experts that you can reach out to, and they'll help out. And then as far as soft skills, communication's a huge one. That's something that you have to do every day coming into work. You communicate with different departments and different folks with levels of education. So some folks might have a background in chemistry, and you can let them know what your reaction is, call it by its like formal name, or talk about chemicals by their names. Whereas there's other folks that come from a non-scientific background, so you gotta, cater to your audience, I'd say. And definitely some computer skills, because you're going to need to make a lot of PowerPoints and stuff like that, and emails. I think collaboration is a huge one in our field. So if you're not a very good team player, it might be very difficult to succeed. Just knowing that you need to ask for some help, I think that's an important one, because not everyone knows everything, right? And yeah, I think those are some good ones. And then just knowing how to interact with different personalities, so there's no arguments and things like that. So yeah.
How would you describe your career journey?
Sure. I'd say that it probably starts as far back as high school. Just, having that one teacher that believed in me, kind of pivoted my career. I think originally I wanted to be a lawyer, which, I mean, you still can be like a patent lawyer or whatever, but I think I really fell in love with being in the lab and being hands-on in that class in high school. And then from there, I went on to the University of Portland, did my undergrad there. I majored in chemistry, got a minor in not biology, and Spanish. And then, so that's been really useful, I think. And then from there, I went to the University of Oregon, got my master's in chemistry with a focus in polymer science. In this program, it's an industrial internship program, so part of it required that I do an internship at a company, an industrial company. So I did do my internship at a company in Albany, and that was like my first real experience in the industry, and I just really liked it. It was so fast paced, so it's great to, just have something new kind of every day. So I know we talked a little bit about my day to day, but it does differ depending on the project that I'm on. So that's what I love about it, is not just the same thing every day. It's you're working on different compounds, you're working with different teams, so it's always exciting. So,
What advice do you have for students trying to find their own way?
yeah, yeah, um, yeah. I would say that, I mean, if you've gotten any real taste of like being in the lab, I think you'd be really interested in this synthetic portion of chemistry. Um, I know that at least at the high school that I went to, um, we had some labs that we were very hands-on, and those were super exciting. So if that excites you, I know that being a synthetic chemist would probably excite you. Um, I don't know. I think it's just really cool to make things with your hands, and you're like, "Hey, I made this," right?
Do you have any career advice for students?
Reach out to your teachers. They might just know someone from their college years that you could talk to. Definitely connect with people. I think that was something that I wish I did more of when I was younger, reaching out, because I know that someone could have connected me to someone that looked like me way years ago. So I would have loved to have picked their brains, and I think that's reaching out is great, because people actually enjoy that. I think they find it flattering, to ask about their experience. Yeah, and I feel like that's like building your network, and I think that's really important, to build your network pretty quick. So that would be my advice. Just reach out. I mean, it's all worth it. Those long study nights. I had a lot of nights where in high school where I stayed up pretty late, especially junior and senior year, getting ready for college, making sure I was taking the right courses and getting the right grades. I think it's all worth it. You'll have many more nights in college the same, but um, once you're in your career, your dream career, I think that's really what it's, it feels great. I'll just tell you that it feels great. Just going into work and loving what you do and the people you work with and where your company is located, because I think that's important too. So I think it'll work out the way you plan it to if you work hard. So.